Hi, I've decided to make this video in response to picaVpica's videos about the infamous word that has just appeared before me as if by magic. I had intended for a long time to make several videos about this word and its meaning and how it applies to me, and never got round to it. So I suppose I should thank Pica for inspiring me to finally get round to this. The first thing I'd like to talk about is the pronunciation. How do you pronounce this word? Now, before I start, I should point out that I'm a bit of an English language hobbyist. I trained as an actor in 1991, I've done a lot of voiceover work, and I'm a professional singer. So I like to speak as clearly and concisely as I can, and use received pronunciation whenever I can. I don't always succeed, but I try. So I've studied English language quite closely and have tons of books on the subject, including Correct English, Tree or Three, an elementary pronunciation course, and The Right to Speak. Excellent book, especially if you want to get into voice acting, being a Toastmaster, anything like that. Highly recommend it. Now, I've also asked a few academics, a college tutor and a university professor in English, and various friends of mine who have studied at grammar school and learned Latin, the whole bit, about their opinion on the pronunciation of this word and where it came from. I've also checked dictionaries from the oldest to the newest I could find. And there is no question about one thing, and that's that this word comes from the word androgynous. This noun is from the adjective androgynous. Now, the various people that I asked, the various dictionaries and books and even websites that I've checked out, all concur on one thing: that the correct pronunciation is androgyne, the way I've pronounced it for years. With one exception, and I think this might interest you, Pica. Dictionary.com have their pronunciation as androgyne. You note, with the soft G still. Not androgyne, but androgyne. The soft G is definitely right. There's no question about that. It's definitely a J sound and not a G sound. I can promise you that. Androgyne, androgyne. That's tomato, tomato, isn't it? Let's call the whole thing off. Who cares? But, you'll probably continue to see androgyne. I will most certainly continue to see androgyne. But I'm quite glad about what I've found, because I never did like androgyne. And I'll tell you for why. It makes it sound like a nasty medical condition, a fault or a flaw, doesn't it? It's not a nice sounding word, androgyne. It sounds like something you would want to have surgically removed, like goiter or gout or ganglion. Androgyne. It just doesn't sound nice. Androgyne or androgyne are much nicer, softer sounding words. And this brings me to my next point. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but you seem to view androgyny as some sort of fault or flaw. And that's not what it is to me. It's a gender identity. And everyone has a gender identity. Masculine males have a gender identity. Feminine females have a gender identity. And that's not a fault or a flaw. It's a characteristic, a feature, like having freckles or green eyes or red hair. It's part of who you are as an individual, and there's nothing wrong with that. But you also mentioned not being able to grasp the concepts of male and female, was it? Or masculine and feminine? I can't remember. In many ways I hope it was masculine and feminine, because sex and gender are two different things, and it is, after all, gender identity we're talking about here, as opposed to biological sex. Now I, as an androgyne, can most certainly grasp the concepts of masculine and feminine, and that's precisely how I know that I don't belong in either of these two categories. But we live in this strange binary society, this strange dualist society, where everything has to be one extreme or the other, on or off, good or evil, black or white, up or down, left or right, on or off, 1 or 0, and indeed masculine or feminine. And that doesn't leave a lot of scope, does it? I mean, if only life was that simple, but it doesn't leave a lot of scope for the myriad, infinite number of shades of grey in between these extremes. See, reality is much more pluralist than that. There isn't just masculine and feminine. There is an infinite number of shades of grey in between. And that's where androgyny falls. I remember somebody commenting on one of your videos saying that if you lean slightly more towards the feminine, then you're a transsexual. Now that's not true. You're only a transsexual if you're born male and want to look like and live like a woman, or if you're born female and want to live like and look like a man. That's transsexualism, where they basically swap the gender roles totally around. But if you're anywhere in between the two, as I am, in other words, as the dictionary says, characteristics of both sexes, then that is androgynous, where the word androgyne came from. That's the meaning. It's a gender identity, like I say, and this is something that puzzles me. Now, I'm not criticising, and I'm not trying to say that you're not entitled to use the word androgyne, because you are. And I wouldn't dream of saying that, although it seems as if in some ways that's what you're saying to me, or people like myself who actually look, or make an effort to look, androgynous. But to me that's part of the whole identity. For me, for somebody to go around saying they're an androgyne, and just go around looking like their own biological sex. I mean, you, Pica, for example, are male, clearly, and you just look like a male. You just look like a bloke, a man. You don't look like anything but a man. And to me, that seems like somebody saying, oh, they're a transsexual. It's like somebody who was born male saying they're a transsexual, but then going through life, just living life dressed like a man, living like a man. And you sort of think, well, how are you a transsexual then? You know, surely if you're a transsexual, you're going to want to look like the opposite sex and live like the opposite sex. And to me, androgyny is the same. If you're an androgyne, I mean, just because it's visual doesn't make it shallow. In fact, if anything, it affirms just how deep-rooted it is. It definitely is from inside, and I do agree with you that it isn't a fashion fad. It isn't a way to annoy your parents. It isn't a way to rebel. It's none of these things. But it is a gender identity, and a very deep-rooted one, certainly in my case.